Hey everybody, welcome to quarantine edition number 2 of Beer Freaks. I've got two assholes on the show with me today that I've known since college. And you can see their ugly faces if you're watching the video. Or if you're listening, just know that they are ugly. And I will I'll make sure to confirm that with both of them.
It's kind of like Sasquatch crossed with a mule.
That's a perfect description of somehow both of them. So we're going to get this thing started. They're both great guys, actually, believe it or not. So let's get this damn thing started. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks. Howdy.
Kyle, Phil, let's start this bad boy off with a cheers. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So where are you guys coming from?
I'm in Berkeley, California.
You look like a nerd. That makes sense.
I'm in that backwards ass state of Georgia that's starting to open up because our governor doesn't know science.
So you're right in the middle of all that. I wouldn't go outside if I were you.
I had to today to get beer for the show.
Wait, they don't have beer delivery where you are yet?
No, see, so we do a lot of dumb things by being run as a Republican state. Like, we can't be open up on Sundays for alcohol until, say, noon. And beer and liquor distribution to your house is a foreign concept. But you can marry your cousin, and we can get coronavirus and all these fun things. So,
First cousin?
probably sisters if you really want.
Jesus Christ. Nice. Well, Phil, you're in the right state for you then, buddy. You're good. I'm kidding. You've got a beautiful wife. You're a good man, and she is not your cousin or your sister. I know that.
She's not. I outkicked the coverage yet again.
Yeah, you did. You somehow keep doing that in life. I'm not sure how that keeps happening.
Be lucky.
All right, guys. What are we drinking today? What do you guys got for the show? I'm assuming we're not just going to stop at one. So maybe
I think Kyle is drinking out of like a urine bottle, so we can start with him. Oh,
As a
advertising.
Yeti
Yeah,
Rambler,
that's I don't believe that's a beer.
high-end koozie.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
This is what I'm drinking. For everyone that's not on video, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, the staple. It may have been the very first beer I ever consumed in my young, ripe age of probably about 12 or 13. My dad.
I don't believe that. Your first beer was a Mickey's, 100% guaranteed.
Yeah, my dad used to brew beer on a regular basis, and he would just replicate existing recipes. And the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale was one that he brewed on a regular basis. So when I, started to get interest in drinking or just being mischievous, I went and would steal beer from him every now and then. And so I'm pretty sure the first beer I stole was a homemade brewed Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. So I have quite the palate for it.
It is a good one. That's one of my favorite go-tos. In fact, my old boss, that's like the only thing that he carries in his kegerator. It's Sierra Nevada. It was like the hoppiest thing he was willing to drink, because I always gave him shit. I'm from California. I love IPAs. And he'd be like, "Oh, IPAs are disgusting." And I'm like, "Dude, IPAs are fantastic. It's like the hoppiest I'll go is Sierra Nevada." I'm like, "Well, you're a bitch." So,
Yeah, it's not even hoppy.
all right, Phil, what do you got?
So I'm doing 2 beers because I anticipate that to deal with both of you, I'm going to need a lot of alcohol.
How dare
First
you.
one is knowing that Kyle was going to show up with an unoriginal beer like Sierra Nevada, though a good beer, just unoriginal. I went with the limited edition 40th Hoppy Anniversary Sierra Nevada beer. Just cracked it. It's pretty good. What's that?
I think you just got one-upped, Kyle.
Oh, I totally did. That I was not prepared at all. I was going with what I could pull out of my fridge.
I know they have beer delivery in California, man.
And then as the backup, I went with a local Georgia beer. This is the Scofflaw Basement IPA. Another heavy hitter in terms of the ABV, which always makes it good, but good mix of hops. So if you're a
Nice.
hoppy person, these are two good beers to go with tonight.
I think I've seen the scofflaw a couple of times, but I don't think I've ever had it. Actually, did you have it at your wedding?
No, we had Tropicalia was what you're thinking. That was the more citrusy, hazy IPA, local Georgia, but one of the best beers, I think.
that was really good. I did enjoy that one.
So we bought all the alcohol. It took a long while to accumulate the stock for the wedding. Like I bought out a couple of Kroger's of all of their supply because they make a limited supply of that.
It doesn't surprise me. There was a shit ton of booze there. And, you got some heavy drinkers at the wedding, and I don't think we finished at all.
No, I came home with a bunch of beer. There's actually still some beer and wine here at the house, and it's over a year now.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember.
It was like right around the year, right? So I should say happy anniversary because I think I got the Facebook notification the other day.
It was March 30, 3:30.
Well, happy late anniversary, man. Sorry,
Thanks.
I missed that.
Yeah, Kyle's even got the koozie from it.
Oh, look at that. That's cute.
Yeah, I remember when it was shutting down and we were gonna go back to the rented cabin. We went behind the bar and took a bunch of cases with us back that night. So yeah, lots and lots of alcohol left over.
I'm sure my dad just said, hey, take it.
Yeah, shout out to Helen, Georgia, by the way. That place really surprised the shit out of me. It was like you said it was like 2 hours north of Atlanta. So I was like, where the fuck are we going? Like, this is going to be this backwoods. And it was this like cute little town. Amanda and I had a great time.
Yeah, so it's right at the base of the Appalachian Mountain, or Appalachian Trail rather. Elise and I actually went hiking up there last weekend. But my brother, I think, described it best. He said, some drunk meth head decided to build a Bavarian town in the middle of the mountains in northern Georgia, and that's Helen. It's on a trout fishing river. Like, I don't know if you guys remember that. There was like a trout fishing competition that weekend. But it's a beautiful town, beautiful area, and it makes no sense for Georgia.
Not at all. Like, I mean, you and I are we've spent a lot of time in California. We lived in California. What's the little Dutch town?
That's one in Germany. Yeah, it's Heidelberg.
Well, I think it's near Heidelberg, but it's it's like just north of LA. It's this is gonna kill me. Well, we got to move on.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah,
Just-
please. It's
LA.
Solvang.
Solvang. Thank you. Solvang. So Solvang also doesn't really make sense, but somehow it makes a little more sense in California. I feel like I don't really know. I don't know why that makes more sense to me in California than it does in Georgia. But Georgia, like, you expect, Deliverance, and you get Dutch. What's happening here? Anyway, guys, so I am drinking one of my favorite new beers, a San Diego beer, Hop Highway by Belching Beaver. It is 7.3%, so this thing's a beast. It doesn't have how hoppy it is on it.
Where are they?
Belching Beaver, I think it's Oceanside.
Okay.
And it's relatively new. They're famous for their peanut butter stout.
Mm.
Oh, I think I've had that at probably like Pizza Port. I was out there in December, and I might have had that.
Oh, you know what? It's in Vista. City of Vista's 50th anniversary. No, it's Oceanside. It's Ocean. So they're just celebrating Vista for some reason. So it's fantastic though. Actually, one of the things that I really like about this beer is it actually isn't crazy hoppy. It's got like kind of like this nice like subtle kick, and it's still really high in alcohol. So you only have to drink like 7 of them to get drunk. I'm just kidding.
Drinking like you're a college asshole.
So you got another glass there, Kyle. What are you drinking? What are you drinking, buddy?
I am drinking the delicious Four Roses.
Oh, there you go.
The good stuff. The stuff that never steers you wrong.
That's some good stuff. Yeah.
I fucking love it, dude. I went because I had the originals Four Roses, but I had never had the small batch. So I was feeling extra luxurious. I went up to the next level, tried it, got a huge fucking boner, and proceeded to
That's like 3 inches, by the way.
like 2.5. Not giving me like more credit than like what's due. Right? So
Is that why? Never mind. No.
I loved it. Like, my 2.5-inch boner loved it so much that all the alcohol I drank from there on out was Four Roses small batch for the next like 8 or 9 bottles. And so I am now like clinically addicted to Four Roses small batch.
That sounds like alcoholism.
Exactly.
And that sounds like a problem when we're in this economy. But I suppose if it helps to keep you from being freaked out by stuff, maybe it works.
That's the whole point of this show, boys. That's what we're talking about here today.
There we go.
It's a perfect segue, Phil, into our segment of what freaks you guys out.
Besides Kyle?
Seems fair.
If I'm the only thing that freaks you out, then you're living a pretty fucking awesome life. I'll tell you that much.
That's true. All right, Phil. Kyle, who's ready to rock and roll on this? Because we got to get to the.
So if I think about this, right? There's two ways. There's 2 ways you can go with this. You can go like surface level, and say, oh, it's spiders or some shit like that I know you're afraid of. Or you can go real deep and go like, hey, the thing that actually does freak me out is failure, right? So you can go emotional or you can go surface.
Go deep. Go deep. Don't be a surface level baby back bitch. Go deep.
Baby.
Failure is absolutely the thing that freaks me out, which I use as that motivator, which is why, I'll be working after we finish this, probably less of a velocity, but failure's the thing that freaks me out and keeps me going.
Is that your fear? Is that the thing that you're going to claim as your fear?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's go into that first, and then we'll come around to Kyle's fear.
Oh, wait, see, Kyle could have a better one, so we should probably hear that out first.
All right, fine. Start with Kyle.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. So I think probably the number one thing in my life now, it's relatively recent, but probably the number one thing that I'm most freaked out about is just like fucking up my daughter, right? Like not being a good dad, not being there for her, not making sure that she knows that like I'm there, I'm supporting her, I care about her, I love her, that like I am extremely like motivated and dedicated to seeing her be successful and cared for. So that is absolutely what I consume alcohol to help get over that fear, the thing that freaks me out. So certainly not a spider or snake or whatever, but certainly a deep fear of mine that I drink to.
Now, it used to be Super AIDS, right?
Everyone's afraid of Super AIDS, Phil.
Yeah. That's a societal fear, Super AIDS.
Isn't coronavirus Super AIDS?
I think it's closely related for sure.
Oh, look at you.
We'll just be king of Arizona somehow.
God, we can't see him anymore. Let's keep it that way.
What the fuck?
It was sorry.
Work as well as my background. Okay. Let's not mix and match about this. Let's just be honest. My background's better. You got to relax. It's fine. Okay. We'll stare at your weird books and whatever gay porn you have on the shelves back there, and we'll be fine with that. We've accepted you a long time ago, Phil. We've known you for over 10 years.
God, I've known you assholes for too long.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, and how ironic is it, by the way? And Kyle, I think your fear is totally valid, by the way. I have a 2.5-year-old son, and Phil fucking disappears again. And that does become the most terrifying thing in the entire world, is making sure that you're doing as many of the right things as possible. But I got to tell you, man, it's pretty ironic that you have a daughter.
It's fate. Like, there's no other way to put it, right? I'm convinced that, even if I have more kids down the line, if I get married, have a family and all that shit, right? Like, even if that all happens, like, daughters, only daughters.
Yeah. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. It's just going to happen.
So beyond just drinking to deal with that fear, I'm also going to be taking a lot of steroids and getting massive, as well as buying many, many guns. Oh.
Hey.
Look at that.
Video bomb.
See? She just emerges out of the darkness. Your background, Phil, your background still doesn't work.
I don't do this stuff.
No, so dude, I hear you, man, because honestly, like, I was never a gun guy. And I'd been considering getting a gun since Jackson was born, because you get that protective element, kicks in, that instinct.
Yeah.
And then coronavirus sort of tipped me over the edge. So now we've got 2 pistols.
It's about time.
Yeah, it took me too long.
What'd you get?
Couple of Beretta 9mm.
Which ones?
Dude, I don't know. I'm not a gun guy. I just have guns now.
Yeah.
I can't even go to the range because they're all closed. It's like I can't even like learn how to use these bad boys. I love Bad Boys, especially the movie.
Bad boys.
2 and 3 coming out soon.
I think the final chapter already came out.
Did 3 already come out? Okay, I'm fucking out. It's like the same thing, man. Like, I haven't looked into it as much, but I know California has very strict gun laws, obviously, and I think you have to get like approval by the court system to buy guns. I don't know all the nuanced laws. Phil probably knows more than I do. But it's going to be very, very difficult with the court system closed for me to get a gun in California.
Well, I know in California it's actually really tough to get guns, especially pistols. In fact, my dad wanted me to buy him one in Vegas and then transfer it over to him. But then we found out that because it had like a 17 capacity magazine,
it's illegal in California.
Yeah,
but you can get a shorter capacity mag. Take care of that issue.
Well, I don't think that because they had a couple of different mag versions, and it was either 17 or 12, which are still above the 10 that I think is the max for California.
If you go online, I can give you a place. You can get California specific mags. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, it's too late. I already canceled my 3rd gun order. So, I mean, I went all in. I went from 0 to 3 in like 2 days. But I will say one thing. That I used to think that it was super easy to get a gun, especially in a state like California. I thought it was like crazy easy to get a gun, in Nevada, not California. Nevada, where it's like super open carry, all this crazy stuff. And it turns out actually it is not that easy to get a gun. It took me, if I wasn't in quarantine, it would have been easier. Everyone decided to get a gun at the same time. So the background checks took like 2 weeks. It was insane. But on top of that, so the first time I went, my physical address on my ID didn't match my current because I just never got it updated when we moved. And so they're like, I went through the whole process, and then they, at the very end, after like an hour and a half, they were like, no, I can't sell you this gun. And I was like, shit, what? Then I had to go get it. And then I'll tell you the other thing, and I won't mention the business, but I thought this was kind of funny. So I went in to pick up my guns after my background check cleared. And this was after like 3 weeks of a background check. And the guy asked me, he's like, why'd you get 2 of the same gun? And I was like, well,
so I can shoot in both hands.
Well, that's what he's like. Are you like double fisting guns? Like, what are you doing? Like you like Wyatt Earp over here? What's going on? So I was like, no, you know what? I'm buying like one for me and one for my wife for home protection. And he's like, well, you shouldn't have said that because I can't sell this to you now.
Because you're giving it to your wife.
Because I'm giving it to my wife. He's like, yeah, you can't. She has to do her own background check then. But here's the funny thing. And again, this is why I'm not going to say the name of the business. They were like, well, if you say it's a gift, just tell me it's a gift and I'll sell this to you.
Of course.
Like, it's a Mother's Day gift. It's yours. You got it.
Yeah, for my mom in California.
It's a gift to myself. Talk about self-love here.
Gift to my other hand.
Yeah. It was pretty funny though, because he was like, you just need to say it's a gift. Just say it's a gift. Like, it's a gift. So I learned a lot. It was definitely a more rigorous process than I thought it was.
There is a couple more loopholes. One, you can still buy at a gun show or private party without a background check. Two, you can go and get a concealed weapons license in most states, and then they stop doing a background check. They just validate that your license is real. So you
Really?
can get a license and then like commit a crime and not be eligible to buy a gun, but have the license and still be able to buy one. So there's another loophole there.
Sounds legit.
Yeah, and I've exercised all those rights except for get the license, commit a crime. I have a license. I don't commit crimes. Just clarity.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest culture shock that I experienced when I first moved to Arizona, when I went to NAU, I was with a cab, and he wanted to go buy a gun. I was like, okay, cool. I've never done that in California, but let's do it in Arizona. And we go to Walmart in NAU, in Flagstaff, and in about 40 minutes, we are in and out, and he has a .22 rifle. And that just blew my fucking mind that in the span of 40 minutes, he could go in, look at what he wanted, select what he wanted, fill out about 2 pages of paperwork, and walk out. So 40 minutes, we were in and out. Another half hour, we were out the woods shooting that bad boy. And it was just like, I am not in California anymore.
And of all people to have gotten one.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, when I first came from California to Flagstaff for school, actually, and it probably wasn't the same for you, Kyle, because I think it changed by that point, but people could still smoke in bars.
I remember that.
There was like 1 year in Flagstaff when I was there that people could still smoke in bars.
I think it was like my senior year in high school. And like, I remember we went like just before they stopped it in Arizona and like smoked cigars in a restaurant because we're dumb kids. Yeah. But you say that when I was in grad school, so this is 2012, 2013, that summer was the last summer that they allowed you to smoke in bars in Indiana.
Get out of here.
It took until 2012 till they finally stopped. Yeah.
I don't know why, but I feel like Indiana would have had that whole thing figured out a long time ago.
Yeah, flyover state, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, the only time I've experienced being able to smoke in a bar or restaurant was when I came out to Georgia for the first time. So that was.
Oh, are you talking about that club we went to?
I thought we were at like it was like in the middle of the day at like a bar. Pretty sure it was a bar. And
I'm gonna grab a beer.
I mean, am I off base here? Like, did that law like get repealed? Like
I think it was a locals bar that they just said we don't give a shit.
Okay, so it was just kind of like an unorthodox outlier thing.
Yeah, they're like, we won't tow if you don't tow.
Okay, yeah. I remember like this is my first time in the South. This is my first time coming to Georgia. And, you know, it wasn't the first bar we went to, but it was one of the bars we went to for like a drink. And I was like, yep, we're definitely in the South if like we were like in this bar and people were smoking cigarettes.
Dude, when I was in high school, my dad, he used to travel for work between San Diego and Atlanta a lot. And I guess he found a car that he wanted to buy me in Atlanta. And and then we would just drive it back across the country. And I was like, I guess it was just so cheap. He was like, this is the car. Doesn't matter that we got to drive it back across. Like, let's just get this one and we'll head across to California.
I've done that drive. Yeah, that sucks.
Well, it was, I mean, as a high school kid who had never seen a whole lot of the country, it was like, this is kind of cool, you know, and I get to do it with my dad. That's fun. You know, so we had a good time. But I do remember still, you know, we left Atlanta. We made our way into Mississippi. We stopped at a Waffle House. And I shit you not, this must have been 2002, 2003. Like I remember the woman cooking my eggs. I could see her because the kitchen was kind of open, just sitting there smoking a cigarette. And I remember I couldn't eat eggs for like 2 years after that. Because
You're lucky she didn't put her cigarette out in your eggs.
I was like, oh man, the South is what, like, it's not an over exaggeration what I think of the South. It really is like this.
So it's funny that you bring up Waffle House though, because I think you guys know this, but Waffle House is actually used as a national emergency barometer for the Southeast. So during like hurricanes or something like that, they basically have this index that they use on how many Waffle Houses have closed, because Waffle House has set up this like giant storm monitoring system that they have on their own back end, because they're known, they're 24/7, they're everywhere. And so when the Waffle Houses are closing, that's like an indicator for FEMA and others, like there's going to be a major hit here. And similarly, it kind of happened with COVID to a lesser extent because, you know, people are dumb in the South, but like that was a similar like crisis awareness metric. Like how many Waffle Houses are closed per capita.
That is absolutely astonishing that a national government organization is relying on data from Waffle House. I mean, look, if you're relying on data from a private company like Google or Amazon to get some data, all right, fair enough. But if you're relying on Waffle House to get you data on what's happening.
Yeah, see, but the South eats on Waffle House and Chick-fil-A. It's just like the staples.
Well, I think what would be interesting is like if you went state by state or maybe like region by region of the United States, because I would imagine there's probably each part of the United States has like its own little barometer, right?
Like the Northeast is Wawa's, which are, you know, this gas station that started as a dairy and all this, but like they make really good food and sandwiches, right? So there's that. And the Northeast is going to have your Starbucks concentrations. The San Diego's, they could probably use breweries, candidly.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Brewery capital of the country. Fuck you, Portland.
Stick to coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's an interesting metric. I'd be kind of curious how much they've gone down in terms of like their sales and everything. Like how much like are they able to kind of with people's like dedication and
well, so Starbucks just reported this week the first year-over-year sales, in-store sales decline in like 10 or 14 years.
That's insane. Well, I mean, like I was talking about like Waffle House. I'd be kind of curious to know how much they've gone down. I'm assuming they're still doing like orders to go, right? So
they did.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's crazy, man. I mean, a lot of companies are pivoting to that, and like virtual experiences, and it's been pretty interesting to see like the companies that are willing to pivot quickly, and the companies that are just like, you know, we're done. Like, guys, at least try something. Like, give it a shot. Well, some people just don't.
We actually, it's funny we're talking about this. That's a new business offering that I'm launching this week that will come out for our company. Is we call it the Business Restart Incubator. And it's helping those businesses that have essentially shut down or had to do that massive pivot. Like, where do you go from here? How do you do it? Because it's a completely different mindset than what they would have done before.
Yeah.
I mean, like realistically, what is retail going to look like, and what are restaurants going to look like after this? What are bowling alleys going to look like? I mean,
We're back open in Georgia, so
Business is booming in Georgia.
business is
come
rough.
to Georgia, get COVID.
I mean, I personally think it's a good thing. I think that it's a good thing in terms of like we're modernizing the like societal acceptance of you can work from home and still get shit done, right? Like just because you work from home doesn't make you a lazy sack of shit that's going to be unproductive, right? So it's like the tech industry has like pioneered that and has been the ones that have like pushed that and been more flexible when it comes to work-life balance, when it comes to being able to select where you like when and where you work, right? And I think it's a good thing that companies are going through this case study of being able to really like analyze and figure out, you know, should we follow suit from the tech sector and allow our employees, if possible, right, if possible, to work from home.
I totally agree, man. I mean, you know, I work for a very traditional business. I mean, CPG, almost a century old at this point. And look, like they still had some weird rules around like your ability to work from home. You know, just a lot of different things, and their ability to pivot to digital has just been slow at best. Like it's been crazy, and the good thing is, you know, there is going to be good that comes out of this. I know it sounds kind of shitty because it's like, you know,
Absolutely.
people are dying, but there is going to be some good things that come out of this. And if nothing else, it's going to be people reevaluating. I think exactly what you said, Kyle. People are reevaluating their work from home policies. People are reevaluating their digital efforts. But also, I think another thing that people are going to reevaluate after this is like work-life balance in general. Like, you know, it's
So I'll challenge that commentary or philosophy on work-life balance,
sure.
because one of the things that we set up when we set up our company is this concept of work-life harmony. Because work-life balance means to reach a balance, you've got to give up one for the other. And harmony means that you're able to coexist. And so that has a different definition for every person. And I think that's what we really need to be focusing on is how do you embrace that? Like, what does it mean to coexist as opposed to give one up for the other? So, and I think a perfect example is working moms have done this for a long time, right? Like, how do you manage being a mom and home life and work? But I think we as a society, and we're all business people on this podcast, is like we have to think about as leaders, how do we allow for that to happen beyond just that certain group and make that part of our intrinsic cultures?
Yeah.
I agree, Phil. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the word balance is probably not the right word to use, right? I think it just, I mean, at the very, like, at its very core, it's very simplistic way to look at all this, right? I think it just literally comes down to happiness, right? Like, are you happy working 80% of your time, 90% of your time, right? Like Phil, right? He loves to fucking work like ungodly hours, right? Fucking 70, 80 plus hours a week, right? And that brings you joy. That brings you happiness, right? And
Yeah, well, it's also how I stem off the fear of failure. Right?
Exactly, right? And so, you know, I think there's just got to be opportunity, right? If I come in and go, look, I have a daughter now, I want to work 40 hours a week, just do my job, get in and get out because I have these other things in my life, like that's got to be accepted, or that's got to be, you know, like an option for me at whatever company I'm at. Or if I'm like, no, I'm super gung-ho, I'm ambitious as fuck, I want to do these 78-hour weeks and I want to rise, right? Like there's got to be like different tracks and options at companies for their employees.
Yeah. And look, I think at the end of the day, say what you want, call it what you want. It's semantics. You know, we all have our interpretation of what work-life balance is, work-life harmony, and that's fine. I think what, you know, the point of work-life balance or work-life harmony is understanding that everyone interprets it differently, and everyone has their own, you know, desire, and everyone has their you know, for example, you know, I think there are people out there who are willing to work 50 hours a week or 60 hours a week or 80 hours a week. Like they don't care. But what they need to know is like, if I want to leave for 4 hours at noon because I have a doctor's appointment or I need to pick up my kid from school or I need to go to the DMV, like if you can get that kind of flexibility, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to is just like being able, like we're all going to work hard. We're all going to figure it out. Well, we're not all going to work hard, but it's okay to work hard.
Well, so to a certain extent, you have to accept that there are going to be, we'll call some loafers in that system.
Free riders.
Yeah, it's you know, almost a tragedy, the common situation, but beyond that, you have to trust in your people, obviously. But I think that the biggest challenge to all of that is how do you do that with, say, frontline workers, right?
Yeah.
So how do you think about those philosophies as they pertain to the Waffle House cook, right? Like if somebody walks out from the grill for 4 hours, then nobody else is getting their food, or is there somebody in the backup? Like that's where it gets a little more challenging. And so it's easy for us as all, you know, white collar workers to say, yeah, oh, yeah, it's a great philosophy. We can do that, no problem, right?
Yeah.
Where it hits there is challenge.
I gotta say, I think, you know, one of the things that maybe was just one of the best byproducts of this situation that was totally unintentional was the term essential worker, because goddamn, if that didn't at least make those people who are on the front lines maybe feel a little bit better, at least calling us white collar assholes non-essential workers. like seriously, I work at a factory. Like, so we have people who are producing, we have people who are shipping, and they've been there since March 14th. I mean, every day. Like it's that their schedule has not changed.
Yeah. So sorry, to be clear, your chocolatiers are essential workers?
They are essential. They're food, man. They're food.
Well, I need another beer if we're gonna continue.
Well, you better get one. What's that, number 6?
No, it's number 2. So the question is, do I go with the Scofflaw or do I go with the Sierra?
Either. Bourbon.
Kyle's really trying to up the ante on you. Plus, it's like almost 8 o'clock there. You're good, man. You can move on to bourbon now if you want.
No excuse, dude.
Not if you know my wife, but yeah.
God, it's nice to not have a wife.
Well, you're alone in that camp, Kyle. So no one's going to agree with you here on this podcast. At least not publicly.
At least not while this Zoom is being recorded.
At least while it's being recorded. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, like, just because I think this is a really good talking point, right? I hate to say it this way, but this is just the way it comes to my mind. There's a lot of business leaders, CEOs, C-suite, right, that are just like baby boomers that need to retire or need to die. I mean, I know that's a very blunt and like maybe fucked up way to say it, but just these people have this, like, you know, they started their career many, you know, decades ago, and when they started their career, you know, they fucking worked 8 to 5 and they wore a suit and a tie every day, and it's just like they have this mentality of like that's how it should continue to be, or there should at least be some like resemblance of like a very tight structure work culture, and it's just not reality anymore. It just, I don't need to, like, I get it, like, okay, cool, Phil's gonna go try to sell some work at a new prospective client, he's gonna dress and look a certain way, right? No, you know, like, I get that, like, okay, great, but like you're going in
flip flop.
yeah, it's like you're going into the office, right? You're just seeing like internal coworkers, like, I don't know, like I guess maybe I'm just so like skewed because I've been in tech for so long, where it's just like jeans and flip flops and a fucking t-shirt, right?
But even GM went that way. Excuse me. So GM allows people to like essentially have casual in the office now, unless they're going to meet with clients or something of that nature. So it's moving that way. Hopefully this is another catalyst, but
Yeah. No, it is funny, especially like the dress code thing, because as a San Diegan, I can tell you that if I could wear jeans and tennis shoes or maybe even flip flops to the office and a t-shirt, That's my dream. That's my dream. And
I do that with clients usually. Like, unless they have a very strict dress code, I've worn jeans for the last 3 years.
Well, but that's my point. Is actually, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. You know, someone told me, I forget who it was, but they were like, you know, really, if you want to move up in the world, you know, you should really be dressing better. You know, and it's like, yeah, but it's, and this was at the casino company that I used to work for, by the way.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is actually the new CEO of this casino company became that like blazer, jeans, t-shirt, and tennis shoes kind of guy. And then everyone apparently in the office has changed their whole style. It's like, you know what? All it takes is maybe someone from the top, not some lowling like me back at the time. They're like, hey, dress better, you idiot, you know. But it's like, look, no one needs to put on this uncomfortable fucking suit every day, tie a fucking, you know, noose around your neck and call it like the best business, you know, attire. That's not helpful for anyone. If I want to think well, if I want to be like agile, I need to be comfortable. I need to be able to like move. I'm not saying I need to fucking wear like shorts to the office, but like, I don't want to be like in this like uncomfortable like suit, you know?
I wish I could wear shorts to the office. That'd be awesome.
I would too. I mean,
I know a watch company in LA area that everybody wears shorts. I know a couple surf companies there, right? Like big clothing retail. They're all struggling, to be clear, but
probably for other reasons. Probably not for their dress code.
not because of the dress code.
Not because of
that's correlation, not causation.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you guys think about? I mean, what are some other weird things that are going to come out of the coronavirus? Like, what's going to shut down? Like, what will not ever be the same or will close down altogether? There's going to be some things. Like I mentioned bowling alleys the other day or earlier. Like,
it's funny you asked that because so we have what we call our advisory partner panel, and we've got 10 experts, like deep experts, PhD level people that we know and have built our network around. That we held a conference call essentially around that and challenged them. And so we're publishing an article on that coming out here shortly of that exact same question. Like, what is being extremely impacted? What is going to change? What is going to shut down, right? And I think at the end of the day, I don't know of too many industries or businesses or sectors that are completely going to shut down. I would say everybody is going to shift their business model where it's less of a focus on brick and mortar. And it's more of a focus on how do you engage beyond the initial interaction, right? So if you go to a restaurant, your whole relationship engagement is about sitting down, ordering, eating, enjoying it there, so on and so forth, right? So now we've had to go to this takeaway model. Some places did that already, granted, but I think businesses are going to have to challenge themselves, particularly in restaurant industries, on like, how do you continue the engagement, the enjoyment, and the atmosphere if they're not in your confines? How do you make it into the experience if they're not within your four walls? What are the things you can do? So is it, you know, if you're a walk-up, like, do you have to change how the walk-up environment works, the takeaway and the packaging, and maybe what goes with it, right? So you sell as a, and you've seen a lot of restaurants do this, I'm sure, but like you sell the meal kit, and the meal kit comes with thematic things with it, right? I'm a tiki bar, so I'm going to sell you the drink mix and the skewers, and then it's going to have some umbrellas or shit like that. Like, I think there's every business I could sit down and like think about, okay, what are going to change? But I think that's the takeaway that I see is long run, some of that's going to change. I'll say in the short run, I think it's actually going to flip the other way, which is once we allow things to open up a little bit, people are just going to flock to like, hey, I want to go hang out with everybody and their brother, even if I hated them before, because I haven't seen anybody.
Yeah.
A massive orgy on the streets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so actually, it's funny you say that, right? There are strippers who are making more money doing online strip shows now than they were in like the clubs, and have launched this huge platform. There are some, celebrities who are backing these programs and whatever, and they're making a shit.
Yeah, but most of that money's coming from Kyle.
Gotta spend my money some way, somehow.
You notice he covered up the couch behind him? Like,
Dude, when I jack off, I turn to the back of my couch just so I can go.
Turn the lights off. Turn the lights off. Get the infrared over there.
I'm pretty sure a couple of videos have been filmed there.
More than you care to know. So kind of going along with what Phil was talking about. So, I think Phil kind of, if I'm not mistaken, if I was understanding you correctly, you're kind of alluding to certainly the short term, right? Once more states continue to open up, maybe once we have a COVID-19 treatment.
No, I think it's longer than short term. Like I hit both, but I think there's more than just short term. Medicine's another perfect example. Like, we have relaxed laws and opened up insurance reimbursement policies for telemed. That's what was hindering telemed for a long time. Telemed couldn't happen because insurance companies wouldn't reimburse, and therefore it never took off. Because of this, CMS, which controls Medicaid, Medicare, and so on, all that, said, hey, we will actually reimburse. And when they do that, the insurers, private insurers, say, yeah, we'll do that too. So now telemed can actually grow.
Yeah.
Great system, by the way. That system needs to grow. We've used it a couple of times. It's fantastic. I don't need to go to the doctor because I have a little bit of a cough. Just give me some allergy meds. I'm good. The pollen count's just at 10 right now.
I'm pretty sure Stu is like showing his junk to his doctor, and he's like, this isn't right, right?
It's not supposed to be this color, okay?
Oh God. So I'll take it kind of another route. So I've been very kind of curious about better understanding economics, this whole system, right? How, like, what the Federal Reserve does, their role in trying to combat the recession that we're currently in, and just trying to really dive deep into it. And I think something that I'm sure your panel of experts probably touched on this, Phil, but something that I think will be very, very interesting over the coming years is, do we have a deeper sense, from a business standpoint, do we have a deeper sense of nationalism? Meaning, do we stop becoming less reliant on China and these other countries because they provide low cost?
Onshoring versus offshoring.
Yeah, and so do we bring back a lot of our supply chain in the United States, which ultimately is going to be more expensive, is ultimately going to drive up costs for any number of things, right?
I don't know if it's necessarily that, right? Because there's maybe at least a medium step that happens before that, which is inventories and things like that build up first. So historically, we've gone through this whole economic model of just-in-time inventory and lean out the system as much as possible, so on and so forth. That causes supply shocks when there's a massive demand spike like we had, right, for onshore. So I think you will see that shift happen first, and then maybe concurrently, but it'll be laggard too, is how do you start thinking about securing your supply chain? I think if nothing else, businesses that have gone to sole source models will go to multi-source models.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think, but I guess, like, maybe I'm looking at it certainly from a more pessimistic view of, like, is there going to be this continued sense, even after all this kind of things get better, there's treatment, there's vaccines, right? Things start to kind of normalize or get back to some resemblance of normalcy. Is there going to be this continued sense of blame China, right? It's China's fault for all of this, right? And it kind of comes, a lot of it certainly a lot of this shifts to politics, right? Where there's this really heightened sense of populism, right, in America. And so are we gonna have a country that wants to blame China, not do business with China? Basically, it's and it's not even just China, right? I think it's just globalization. We've been on this huge globalization run for the last several decades. Are we going to de-globalize because of this, right?
Not quickly, right? If at all, not quickly.
Phil, do you think that? So I hear the question you're asking, Kyle, and I think two points. Isn't this all 5G related? I'm just kidding. No, but really, I think, I think it'll be interesting because you bring up an interesting point, Kyle. It's there is nationalism. You hear a lot of reports now of racism towards Asian Americans, which is terrible. I mean, fuck, dude. Like, how stupid do you have to be?
Yeah.
But
depends on what TV channel you're getting your news from.
Pretty
that's
much.
true. That's very true. So, Phil, what do you think? I mean, do you think that we're going to see some weird nationalistic spikes happen, or do you think it's contingent on November?
I don't think it's contingent on November. I think the answer to that is yes, maybe, but so there's
great answer.
And that's a very political answer, right? There's been such a technology build up elsewhere in the world that to re-onshore that isn't an overnight thing. And so maybe we start re-ingesting some of that technology and building on it here, right? Which that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And through that process, yeah, maybe we actually start becoming more cost competitive such that it enables further growth of that. But there can't be such a spike on it that we completely turn around. So case in point, right? There's been mask shortages and things like that. Well, 3M has, call it the biggest market on production of facial masks, in particular N95 masks. They've got maybe a plant in the US that can do it. They have a bunch of other plants that do other things. You can't retool those overnight. They're shuttering those plants right now because the demand's gone. They're ramping up at this one plant here, but they're also more so like reliant on Chinese suppliers and all of that because the supply chain doesn't exist. So will they bring some of that over? Yeah, maybe, but it's a guessing game on like, are we willing to pay the potential premiums for that? Is the quality really changing? I think on the macroeconomic level, if you think about how the quantity business decisions are made, which is really the business level, people don't really give a crap where things are made, right? If it meets quality standards, we can control the IP, and it's reliable, you can make it in Antarctica. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. Whoever provides that same level of quality at the cheapest price, right, wins, right? It's that simple, right? So
the other way you could go about it is remove the made in XYZ stamp and nobody would be the wiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. It's like if you bought into the whole idea of nationalism, like deglobalization, right? If that's what you truly think is going to happen, I guess like what causes that? Is it like laws and like Congress passing, laws that essentially say that we have to like bring some of the supply chain back to America? Is it more of a PR thing from companies, right? That are just like made in America, but you pay more money for it. I don't think so. Like, I don't think people will get behind that. I think you're totally right. I think it's like, there'll be a time period where blame China, fuck the rest of the world. They fucked us over. But at the end of the day, right, we're capitalists and we want the highest quality for the cheapest price, right?
If you got people who are struggling to feed their household and do basic consumption right now, imagine increasing at least in a temporary price shock for 5 years, 1.5, 2 times the cost of everything.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Consumers are not going to swallow that. Businesses are not going to swallow that.
Well, and ultimately what it comes down to is economically, the separation between the upper class and the lower class is just becoming more and more terrible. And you have people who could swallow that. They wouldn't want to, but they could. And then you have people who literally couldn't. And so there's literally a need versus a want sort of situation where you're literally going to put other people under different pressure. And any of these levers that you pull from an economic standpoint are going to have widespread impacts on any other chain, any other sector, anything that you do. I mean, I can tell you there are things that we do within our business that we source from China because there's literally no American company that could do it, even if it's less expensive.
Yeah,
do it. There's not a single one that can do it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you got to wait on this technology transfer and all of that, and like, it doesn't happen overnight. You can be gung ho nationalist all you want. It just doesn't work.
And Phil, you mentioned like retooling, like the 3M plants. Well, guess where that retooling happens? It happens in China. It all those tools to fix the machines, to change the machines, they come from China. Because guess what? Americans don't do that anymore. We stopped doing it because we didn't need to.
And to be clear, that's not a bad thing, right? Like,
there's nothing wrong.
We position the economy to focus on more what we've deemed value add activities and higher technology things. Like, that's not a bad thing to have done. What it means, though, is that if somebody talks about, oh, we're going to only buy American, then you're going to pay for like handmade everything, and it's going to be 10 times the cost. And like, great for you, nationalists. Like, I'm going to take that 9 times delta and invest it, and I'm going to expand the wealth gap, by the way. Just like,
yeah, I think it'll just be short-lived. I mean, I know this starts to kind of divert into more of a kind of a political discussion, but I think from a standpoint of income inequality, right? There's some pretty strange and radical ideas that get floated in terms of how to fix this, and I have a hard time, like, just from my own personal like views, right? I have a hard time putting a cap on the ceiling, right? Like, oh, let's tax billionaires, or let's not. Like, I've heard some pretty radical shit, right, from like far left in terms of like, you know, there shouldn't be any billionaires. I like, just again, my own personal.
Conversely, you hear it on the far right too, right? Which is like, we should have zero tax if you make above $100 million.
Yeah. It doesn't make, I think there needs to, just, I guess from my own personal standpoint, we should like, our system, our capitalistic system should always incentivize people to strive for more, to be ambitious, to be innovative, to come up with new ideas, to make things more efficient, right? To start their own business, to be an entrepreneur. We should never try to unincentivize. I don't know if that's the right word, but we should never try to, we should always incentivize that, right? So I think I don't think it's necessarily, you know, cap the top, punish the top. I think it's bring the bottom up. How do we, if we want to try to narrow that gap, it's bring the bottom up. How we do that, it's probably up for debate, but I don't think punish the top.
Here's an example, right? So there's an article or concept floating around. I think I saw it on Facebook, right? The source of news, or fake news, is, oh, hey, we're in this crisis, so we should start forgiving loans and like letting loans just go away. Student loans, particular, around it, right? But I would pause and say, you know, some of these people are talking about forgiveness, which doesn't necessarily fix the true immediate economic situation. Which really, what you want is that, you know, people incur this debt, and they should be liable for it. What they may, or maybe we should be talking about, is how do you cap interest rates? How do you ensure that people can refinance this loan itself if interest rates have dropped? How do you make it more variabilized as opposed to locked in at a high rate? Some of those components. Because I do think that people should be on the hook for what it is that they did. Now, the pricing of college and education, like, that's a different conversation. But you did make a conscious decision to incur said debts. Now, how you do that, or maybe give some forgiveness in the short term or closer term based on what you do with skills and education acquired, like, absolutely on the table. But we shouldn't just like, oh, we're going to cut off X amount of debt for no reason. Like,
Yeah. Which would not be fair, by the way. I mean, so honestly, I look at the loans that I took out, right? And I have a lot of student loan debt. So if they decided to cancel it, I wouldn't be mad, but I would also think it was the wrong decision. You know, I use some of my student loans to help pay for a down payment on my truck. Like, is that fair for me to get that money back? That's not fucking fair. Like but I do have student loans that are at 6.9 and 7.9% interest rates that are absolutely, why am I being taxed on getting an education? That's not fair. That is absolutely not fair. And then, you know, Kyle.
Well, in particular, because you can get a mortgage rate right now for 3.5%. You're better off over indexing on a mortgage or refining on a house and paying it off. But,
and I've considered a lot of different options. So I don't know. I think that you hit the nail on the head, man. You gotta cap interest rates on student loans. That's not fair to tax above 6 points. Even 5 points is pretty crazy to me. But
well, it's got to be pegged to something that's achievable, right? So if you can, let's just say it this way: if you can achieve a standard 6, 7, 9% return in the market right now on just cash, then maybe that's right. But if you can't, and you can't right now, I can guarantee you can't get 6% on cash, then you shouldn't be charging people 6% on cash.
Right. Totally agree. And, you know, so then Kyle, to your point earlier, you know, I've got a perspective on it around, you know, capping salary or not just salary, but capping income. And you said a lot of things. I mean, you said like efficiency, you said, you know, don't discourage, you know, growth. You know, I think that allowing someone to make $999 million, I think that's fine. I don't think anyone needs more money than that. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't discourage maybe some growth, but look, the other thing is too, is if we're always only assuming growth is the expectation, then this world's going to run out of resources at some point, man.
Well, you know what? That's absolutely, that's absolutely true, because I see that all the time in the stock market, right? Or businesses. Like, you expect a growth amount, but like at a certain point, you just fundamentally can't.
There are only so many resources. And thanks for jumping in. Like, it's just, I don't think we need billionaires. I think, look, I don't have 7 figures in the bank account, and I'm fine. We live a great life, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be millionaires, whatever. Like, but there are so many resources to go around. I'm not saying the answer is just a blanket cutoff, but I do think that it's something worth thinking through. And I think that people who want to achieve things, you know, Phil, let's go back to your original fear, your fear of failure. It's not about just money. Money is not the only thing that drives the desire to succeed. There are a lot of other factors that drive a desire to succeed. And so I think, you know, I hate getting too political on this show, but tax the wealthy, fucking cap their income and call it a day, man. That's, you know, but that's just me.
Keep your fucking greedy mitts off my money.
I think, like, I hear what you're saying, Stu, and it's like cognitive, like from a cognitive standpoint, it makes sense, where it's like, if this motherfucker over here is, you know, pulling in $1 billion a year, he should pay his fair share, right? The idea, like the example that always comes to fucking,
I'm predicated on the assumption that they're not paying their fair share, and that we know what fair share means. Just
sure, that's all very subjective. I agree. And it's like the example that always comes to mind is like fucking Amazon or some large tech company paid $0 in federal income tax, right? So but I guess, like, back to Phil's point and question, right, is like, what is that number, right? Like what, oh, hey, there she is. Like, what is the number that does not, here's the word I was looking for, disincentivize, not unincentivize, disincentivizes people, right? If we're going to live in a capitalistic society, like America is capitalism, right? We need to incentivize capitalism, right? If the idea is like social nets and the idea is more of like a socialistic, like a socialism type of environment, then great, then go fucking full bore that direction. I think we are like trying to like teeter somewhere in the middle and trying to like go a little bit this direction, a little bit that direction, and I don't think that works.
Well, there's probably truth to that, because anytime you try to make a group decision, you always wind up at the lowest common denominator that no one fucking likes. When you're all trying to pick a restaurant and like Karen doesn't like Thai food and Jason doesn't like Mexican food, so you all go to Greek food even though no one fucking likes Greek food. So maybe there's truth to that, man. But I gotta believe that if we find the right balance, because I still believe capitalism is the right thing. Capitalism and free market enterprise is absolutely the right thing. Does that mean that it's not capitalistic if you put a cap on it? I don't know.
I think what you're implying, and I'll say it a different way that may make it clearer, at least for me, is like we're talking about guardrails, right? It's how do you allow people to be incentivized to innovate, which innovation is generally tied with wealth and growing wealth, while still also ensuring that we don't have wild swings and leave people behind. Like that to me is what guardrails mean.
Yeah.
And there's not a good answer for that. And I think that's what economists have been debating for 300 years.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to kind of take it in another direction, but I think people are going to be left behind unless we create free systems for people to adapt and change and learn, and somehow incentivize people to do that.
So I don't disagree, but how do you bring along the people who would rather study underwater basket weaving?
Good question. There has to be some way to incentivize, because I think our economy as a whole is super interesting. Like fucking podcast I was listening to, right? It's like our economy as a whole is going to radically shift into deflation, whether we like it or not, because AI is going to make everything fucking cheaper. It's going to automate jobs. People are going to be displaced.
We're already doing it with RPA. Like I work with clients all the time. We're trying to methodically do processes that are mundane that we're paying people $15 an hour to do. And then
drivers, right? You could go on and on and on, right? About different sectors and industries that are going to be automated and just jobs are going to no longer exist. And it's going to make companies more efficient. It's going to drive down price. It's going to like our whole system is based on 2% inflation, right? That's what our entire system is based on. And that eventually is going to have to radically shift. And it's like, how do we deal with that? Like, we're not prepared at this point to deal with that.
That's true.
Anyways, like it was a super interesting, like kind of lecture podcast where this guy was talking about once we kind of get into this standard deflationary economic system, because AI will make things radically cheaper for everybody, you're going to be incentivized to save money. Right? It's not going to be a consumer-based system. You're going to be incentivized to save because your money will be worth more, right? As things become cheaper.
Unless the dollar devalues. So in a deflationary economy, the value of currency decreases. They are definitely tied.
Well, so right now, right, we're in deflationary.
So I'll say it this way: we're the strongest of the losers.
Well, I think what will be like.
What'd you get, Stu? Same thing. Oh, the Voodoo Ranger. Yeah. Is that the original?
Talk about Oregon.
Sorry.
Actually, you know what? This is Colorado.
Yeah.
I talk a lot of shit about Oregon beer, but I actually like it. But that's a Colorado beer.
Well, so they came out with a lot of different variations on the Ranger series.
The Ranger. They did what Stone did with Arrogant Bastard.
Yeah.
And what's the other Ballast Point did with
Sculpin.
their Sculpin and their Victory at Sea, where they came out with like 20 variations of Victory at Sea. Actually, this is a really good beer, and this base is 7.5, I think.
Is that the original?
No, this is the Juicy Haze.
Oh yeah, I have that at the brewery actually.
You'll never be able to see it because of my background.
Yeah.
Looks like a ghost beer. Hey, sorry, Kyle. I had to pee so bad, man, but you were in the middle of a really good point.
No, dude. I'm just fucking going off on a tangent.
I gotta get another beer if we're gonna keep going.
Yeah, no, dude. We could totally pivot. I know that we're probably impeding on your podcast session, so let's get back to that.
Well, that's what the whole thing's been about. I think your fear of failure and your fear of taking care of your kid, they kind of come together in this post-coronavirus world, and we've kind of touched on some of the subjects, so I think this works.
I think both are like economically related ultimately.
They are. They absolutely are.
What's your fear, Stu?
My fear is everything, man. I told you this. This is I have a fear of scary movies. When Amanda goes on business trips and I watch a scary movie at home alone, I can't sleep. Fear of the dark. I have a fear of failure. I have a fear of spiders. I'm afraid of snakes. I am afraid that Sasquatch might exist in the hills above my house. I am.
So I'm hearing a bunch of surface level nonsense. Phil and I went much deeper and like spilled our thoughts, and you're just giving bullshit. Just
Look, man. Honestly, I wasn't bullshitting earlier when I said that my fear is very similar to yours, Kyle. I mean, ever since we had Jackson, and his birthday is next month, by the way, May 17th. So right around the corner, he'll be 3 years old. And it's crazy, man. You just get terrified about everything. I mean, we have stairs in our house. I can work myself up at night where I'm 100% positive that he's going to pull himself out of bed and try to walk down the stairs and kill himself falling down the stairs. Every night before bed, I like hide all the knives away and scissors or anything that he could hurt himself on because I'm 100% positive that he's going to like jab himself in the eye with it. Like what is this, like a demon baby? He's not going to jab like scissors into his eye, but he could,
Listen, bro, like I broke my leg at 16 months. I've broken my nose like 5 times. Like I've done everything that you could probably do as a kid. And I made it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's the thing, man. I know that there are way more safeguards now than there were then. And you know what? We all survived, but when you have these little ones, Jesus, you never know how much you're terrified about their safety, about their welfare, about their future. I mean, I know how selfish I was before having Jackson, and I still am very selfish. Don't get me wrong, but like you realize, like at that moment, holy shit, my entire life just changed, and now I'm worried pretty much for the rest of my life about how this kid's welfare is. It just everything freaks you out. I drive the speed limit now when he's in my car.
Crazy talk.
Yeah, I know. It is. I mean, Kyle, I'm sure you're feeling the same things, man. I'm sure you're just like, how are you going to be the best father?
I went the other way. He's just like, fuck it. I can't do it. I quit.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, situation is a little bit different between you and I, Stu, but certainly from the standpoint of like, okay, I only have kind of this finite, limited time, right, to kind of influence her, impart my values, do the things I want to do with her, right? And so I guess I view that as I need to like make the most of it. I need to make sure that the things we're doing are high quality, that when I do spend time with her, that I know she's still very young, right? So it's like, you can only do so much, right? But like at the same time, I know that's how it's going to be for for the foreseeable future, right? It's just like you get this block of time, and like what are you going to do with it? How are you going to make the most of it? How are you going to impart wisdom and teach her lesson, whatever it is, right? Whatever's important to you, right? So I guess I've just had some time to really consider and think about that and what that may look like going into the future. So,
and a little advice: you're gonna have that feeling always, no matter what. Like, oh, I could be doing this better. Oh, I could be doing this better. The most important thing you could do is, when you have the opportunity, spend some time, have fun, enjoy each other. Because, look, we sit around our house all day Saturday, and, it's like, well, we try to play with them, we interact with them, we read to them, we try to do things that are educational, but then we fucking turn on Netflix, and it's like, look, maybe this isn't the most educational thing in the world. You're going to watch the Disney Channel for a little while, okay? Because mommy and daddy need a little mental break. And so you can't, what you can't do is be too hard on yourself about like spending every moment perfectly. The most important thing is just to be in the moment and just enjoy it.
Yeah. No, I think
otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy. You'll drive yourself nuts.
I think that was well said. And I think I've already experienced some of that. Right. And so I think I've definitely gone through a little bit of the process of like, it's okay if some of the time I spend with my daughter is not just reading to her, right? Even though that's important, right? Like, it's going to be okay if like she's not constantly read to, right? And so I think there was definitely like a period of time where I was just like super fixated. Like, she needs these 3 or 4 things because that's what's important to her developing and growing brain, and that's what she should be consuming. And
just remember crib sheet, Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much, right? And so, anyways, yeah, I think you said it well, Stu. Like, it's like they're not gonna turn out fucked up just because you're not like constantly reading to them. Like, they're gonna be okay.
You don't need to play classical music on the violin 24/7 to develop that brain. I mean, it's plus I bet you play the violin like shit, so you can't really even do that.
I'm half decent on guitar.
Not on Guitar Hero, if I remember college right.
All right. Gentlemen, I do need to sign off. Stu, it's been a blast. Thank you for having me on.
Hey guys, I'm with you. We got to shut it down. We're calling it a night for well, I'm not calling it a night. We got to start making dinner for the little guy. But loved catching up with you guys. We should do this again sometime soon.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And by the way, when the quarantine's over, we got to finally fucking do that bro trip that we've been talking about. I don't care if it's camping or California or whatever, but we got to do something.
Appalachian Trail.
It's too close to you. Get out of your element.
Alaskan bear hunting.
Okay.
I think California is a good middle ground for us 3. So
Southern California, maybe.
NorCal. We gotta go like way north, like Shasta.
Well, let's just go to Portland and talk shit about their beer the whole time. We'll just walk to all their breweries and be like, San Diego's better.
This beer sucks.
All right, guys.
All right, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Later.
Thanks for joining.
Later.
Just drink your Lysol and
You mean inject my disinfectant?
yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
So if everybody gets some concentration of lights, like going to a Trump tanning booth, it will fix the coronavirus.
Right, just crank it up a couple of notches and you'll be fine.
You need to shine the light straight in your asshole while injecting Lysol, and it will fix it.
Are you recording this?
No, still is.
Gonna use it as blackmail.